off your cell phones. Thank you.
I am delighted to welcome you to the beginning of this new year. And we are starting this year with that incredible news that, again, we are #1 by U.S. News and World Report. Incredible news. Absolutely incredible. We have begun a tradition here of having 2 new students to come and talk to us from their perspective. And this year, we are very privileged to have Caitlin Leiter-Mason from Frederick County, and we have Genaro Hernandez, who is from California. Caitlin is a freshman who will speak first, and then Genaro will speak as a graduate student, as a beginning graduate student. So we start with Caitlin and then Genaro. Give them both a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today with you to share why I chose UMBC. But before I do that, I should tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Caitlin. This past spring, I graduated from Governor Thomas Johnson High School in Frederick, Maryland. I'm starting UMBC in the fall as a member of the Sondheim Public Affairs program in the Honors College. I am a daughter, a sister, and a friend. I am a writer, an activist, and a volunteer. I am a mango smoothie connoisseur, an avid listener of NPR podcasts, and someone who takes pride in wearing mismatched socks. This summer, I interned with Governor O'Malley's re-election campaign in Western Maryland and traveled to South Dakota for my second service trip to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. While I had to return early to attend my UMBC orientation, I was still able to work with my brother and other youth to put a roof on one of the many houses of the Lakota people that are in desperate need of repair. Another thing you should know about me is how much I value being a student. Since middle school, I plan to major in political science, but my interests are constantly evolving and currently include media and communication studies, English, history, geography, environmental science, social work, French, gender and women's studies, art history, and economics. Now, exactly what I want to do with this vast array of interests is yet to be decided. But for now, I just want to take the next 4 years to learn as much as I can. So, why did I pick UMBC? Well, first, I should make a confession. UMBC didn't make it onto my college radar until late in the game. Well, late in the game for me. I started looking at colleges my sophomore year in high school, but it wasn't until last September when I came to this campus for Maryland Distinguished Scholar Day that I considered applying to UMBC. That day, I walked through Academic Row, heard Dr. Hrabowski speak, and found out about the amazing programs and scholarships here for the first time. A week later, I was back on campus, going on a tour, talking to students, and meeting with professors. UMBC had made it on my definitely applying to list. But a few months later, when it came down to decision time, I didn't know what to do. You can ask my family. They will definitely vouch for me. It was a mess. I had been accepted to many outstanding schools and didn't know how to choose one. So in my effort to make the right decision, I spent the entire month of April thinking about what things were most important. I thought about the many students I'd met during my college visits, which ones I wanted to get to know more and could see myself being friends with. They were from UMBC. I thought about all of my college interviews and realized that the interview for the Sondheim Public Affairs program was the one during which I felt most myself, the one I had genuinely enjoyed. I thought of all the talk about the personal attention that would be available to me at the small liberal arts colleges on my list. And then I thought about UMBC, how quickly I heard back from the admissions office when I emailed with a question, about the time and attention that professors here had given me when I met with them. UMBC was the only school that extended that kind of personal attention that was touted by other colleges. I knew that UMBC would live up to its exceptional ranking in undergraduate teaching. I marveled at the genuine presence of diversity here, the exciting opportunities in Baltimore and DC, and the strong commitment to community service. I had made my choice. I am thrilled to be a retriever. Another thing you should know about me is that I love making lists. So here's one I want to share with you. Over the next 4 years, in addition to inspiring classes, I'm looking forward to meeting new people, being an active learner by connecting my schoolwork to research, learning more about the UMBC community by writing for the Retriever Weekly. I'm excited to explore Baltimore, study abroad, and intern, hopefully with the General Assembly in Annapolis. I also would like to build on my summer campaign experience by working to increase political awareness and participation on campus as we approach the November elections, as well as engage in activism with student organizations, live on the Women Involved in Learning and Leadership floor in Harbor Hall, and give back to our community through Service Learn. And last, but certainly not least, I look forward to meeting and working with you, the staff and faculty of UMBC. You are a big part of the reason that I choose to study here. And as we start the new school year, I want to thank you for all you do to make this school an exciting and supportive place for the students of UMBC to learn and live. Thank you. I'll see you next week.
Wow, that was great. It's hard to follow that. Yeah, I know, exactly. I'm very excited to be here today with all of you. My name is Genaro Hernandez Jr. My mother is from Mexico and my father was from Mexico as well. I don't come from a family of professionals, but very early on I knew that I wanted an education. And the reason why I really pursued an education was because, sorry, I'm a little nervous. So when I was very young, my mom, when I was 5 years old, my mom almost died from an encounter with a drunk driver. And it was a very, very terrible moment for our family. And when I look back at that, you know, she was able to still be alive because of the physicians that actually treated her. And so I came to see these physicians who I never met as people who took the time to really educate themselves, to become enlightened, and through their enlightenment to contribute in some positive way to society. And that's the reason why I study, or one of the reasons why I study. So since having this determination to really acquire an education, you know, I've actually earned a BS in chemistry from San Diego State University. I went on to earn a master's as well from Stanford University, the Biomedical Informatics Training Program in the School of Medicine. And I started working for the NIH. You know, I've been working there for 2 years now doing medical informatics. So I did become the first person in my family to graduate from a university. My mother and grandmother are very, very happy about that, very excited. You know, I just got done with my orientation for the biological sciences. That's the department that I was accepted into for my PhD, where I'll be working on computational biology. And it was very, very exciting. It was amazing. The research that was on in that department just was amazing. And I actually, you know, UMBC was not my second or third choice. It was really my first choice. And during my orientation, you know, a student came up to me and she said, well, why didn't you do your PhD at Stanford? Well, it's because I wanted to come to UMBC, you know. Quite honest. Our school was amazing in so many ways, and for me, the things that I was looking for was a place where I could engage in the kind of research that I find interesting, which is research on the semantic web, which some of you may not know what that is exactly. But there are these ideas that surround altering the current web that we have now so that information is understood by machines and programs, and it's easier to sort of integrate information. And that's the kind of research that really interests me, in applying that to the domain of biology and medicine. And there are several computer scientists here who do that, and also within the biological sciences, Dr. Marisol Khan is very interested in applying those methods to associate protein domains and disease. So I'm able to do the kind of research that I'm interested in, which my school offers. UMBC offers that. And UMBC is also great for computer science, which I'm also very, very interested in. I need to develop those strong computer science skills. Also, what was a very, very important factor for me was the fact that when I look at our school, it's a school that's very supportive as opposed to being overly competitive. As I've spent a few days here on the campus, I look at how the professors interact, how they interact with the students, with the staff. Everyone is very friendly, professional. I mean, they're just very, very supportive. And you can come, as evidence of how supportive this campus is. You can look at some of the programs that they have. For example, they have the Meyerhoff program, which helps to foster, students, underrepresented students getting into PhD programs. For me personally, I'm just honored that I received a fellowship, a graduate fellowship from them, to fund, my education here for the first year. And there are other related programs too, like they have a writing center, which I will be spending time at. So I think our school is amazing. I'm really happy to be here. And I look forward to meeting some of you, if not all of you, throughout the school year. And thank you so much.
Give them both another big round of applause. Incredible. And now our provost is beginning his third year at UMBC. Give him a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. As my first official act, I wrote a note that what I need to do is get more involved with students and Lisa Auction public relations. Bringing those two together is a very good idea, as we just saw. It's a great pleasure to welcome you back. I think we heard from the students that it tells us why the opening of the school year is such a time of excitement and also a promise. I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for all of your efforts and all of your support over the last 2 years. Despite what have been some significant fiscal challenges, we continue to make important progress and maintain our momentum. Last year, I spoke about 4 priority areas: student success, with a focus on retention and graduation, strengthening the infrastructure for research and creative activity, environmental programs, both academic programs and institutional practices, and campus safety and security. In each of these areas, we've made significant progress. We've completed the construction of the CMS Active Science Teaching and Learning Environment, also referred to as the CASEL, and we are planning to pursue further initiatives in student learning environments. Our annual research funding has increased to $95 million. We've begun, as everyone's aware, construction on the Performing Arts and Humanities facility, and we'll be having an official groundbreaking shortly. We've also created the Institute for Marine and Environmental Technology at our new facility in the Columbus Center downtown, and we've supported and strengthened our counseling center and our behavioral risk assessment capacities on campus. These are just a few of the areas where your efforts have been critical, and I encourage everyone, there are posters all around the room that describe initiatives and effort, and I hope you'll take the time as the meeting proceeds to review as many of them as you can. This year I want to talk about a second aspect of our planning process, which is really integrated with the priorities, which is our focus on enhancing UMBC's long-term financial strength. To accomplish this, we've undertaken a series of 20 initiatives designed to enhance our revenues and simultaneously reduce costs. And one way or the other, everyone in this room is supporting several of the initiatives. In the short term, the purpose of the initiatives were clear: to mitigate the impact of the budget cuts that we've been going through. But in the longer term, we envision these as providing support to grow current programs so that they can increase their staffing and faculty capacities, and also moving our priority initiatives forward. Just to give you a sense of some of these, and I'll talk about the revenue side and then the cost side. On the revenue side, we've been working hard to increase summer, winter, and Master of Professional Studies enrollments. We've made great progress in this area. And if I were to pick one area that I think is absolutely essential to our long-term financial future, this would be the area. We're also working on facilities and administrative cost recovery. To give you a sense of how powerful this could be, a 1% increase in FMA recovery generates $1 million in revenue for us. We're also working hard to increase donor participation in our annual fund, and we've made great progress in this area. And finally, we've been pursuing recruiting of international and out-of-state students, and that's an area where we're up about 1% this year. On the cost side, we pursued a number of initiatives also. Lynn and her group have worked very hard to reduce our utilities costs. It's part of our overall environmental plan, and we've been very successful in that area. We also have been restructuring our merit aid costs. We've reduced the cost there by $850,000 while still maintaining our ability to recruit top students, as you just saw. We've also undertaken 2 large-scale initiatives. One is the IT restructuring, and the other is the Library Blue Ribbon Committee, and those are on posters around, and I encourage you to take a look at those also. We have made significant progress on every one of these initiatives, and I think in the long term they'll be moving us forward in a very powerful way. For the current, the most important thing that these initiatives done have allowed us to mitigate the impacts of the cuts, and most importantly, I know for everyone in this room, they've protected jobs. And that's something through this period we've taken as a critical goal, and I think we've made great progress on that. As the state's budget picture brightens and the initiatives mature even more, we'll be seeing the effects in terms of increases in faculty and staffing, and also support for new initiatives. I want to close by emphasizing that this year, like every year before, it's going to be a journey that will present some challenges, both for UMBC as an institution and for each of us individually. It is, however, a journey that we begin with very substantial strengths. As Freeman mentioned, a very strong national reputation, broad excellence in our students, faculty, and staff, and a very committed community. It's also a journey that we begin with careful plans for our priorities and our long-term financial health. And I'm confident that by working together, we'll position from our current strength for even greater strength in the future. Thank you again for your support. I look forward to working with everyone in the coming year.
I was thinking about what a great job he is doing as provost, and as he would say, is building on the strength of our provost emeritus, Art Johnson. It is significant when you can have good people doing work and you have transitions and they work together and you have that continuity, and that's what UMBC is all about. How many of you have been at UMBC for at least 5 years? All right, I want my new students to see this and their parents. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Anybody 25 years or more, stand up. Let me see it. Excellent. So everybody can sit down, but let me put it this way. Raise your hand if you've been here 30 years or more. So anybody who's been here 35 years or more, stand up. Let me see. Excellent. Is it possible Could be. Anybody 40 years? 40 years? Wow. 43. Wow. So I have, for those of you who've been here 25 or more, I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want first? Bad news. The good news is you look really good. The bad news is you're getting older, right? You're getting older, all right? Each fall we come together as a community to look at the progress we have made, the challenges that we face. A year ago, we all talked about the global and national and states economic uncertainty. This year is certainly better than last year. This past year, faculty, staff, and students here showed great character in many ways. We had to make sacrifices. We've not had raises. We had furloughs and temporary reduction in salaries. And yet we were all determined to keep focusing on our two major priorities, supporting the people, our students first, faculty and staff, and continuing to build the academic program. In the midst of all of those challenges, we had our Maryland Charity Campaign, and I really want to thank the people involved, Lisa and Dorothy and others, because we did more, Greg Simmons, we did more last year than ever before. More than half of the people on this campus gave to causes involving people less fortunate than ourselves, the highest in the state of Maryland. Give yourselves a hand for caring about those people. Very impressive. I can't tell you how many calls I've got. Can you hear me in the back? Because I can't tell. Can you hear me? Calls and emails I've gotten from other presidents. The Chronicle came out with this list of institutions that had been surveyed to say, well, where are the places where people really feel good about where they work? And amazingly, there we were at the very top as a place where people said, UMBC is a good place to work because people care about people. Give yourselves a hand for caring about each other. What's key about the U.S. News and World Report, beyond the #1, it's great. I mean, it's amazing that we could have been #1 up and coming for the second year. Remember, that's people from other campuses voting on us. People admire what we do here. It is even more significant, though, that we're on the short list of schools with a strong, they call it an unusual commitment to undergraduate teaching, and that list included the normal suspects, from Dartmouth to Princeton to Brown, and right below Stanford and Yale, directly below there is UMBC. Give us a really big hand. And you know, for years we have been bothered by those traditional ratings that had us in the 3rd tier because of graduation rates not taking into account that many of our students come here because they plan to go down to UMB, for example, for medical technology, for physical therapy. So they get their science courses here, their general education courses here, they transfer, and they graduate from that campus. We get no credit for that. And what it does is it lowers our rate. They say, well, you got all these bright kids coming in, why is your rate not? And so the gap between what they expect us to do based on SATs and what we are is wide because of the fact that many go down to UMB and because there's certain programs we don't have. As I always say, if we had undergrad electrical engineering, if we had undergrad business, those kinds of programs, it's very interesting. In spite of all of that, for the first time, we are so good, they still put us in the 1st tier of institutions. Give us a big hand for that. The retreat that we had focused on areas that we care about. We started with student success. You'll see some of them are undergrad and grad student success. We talk about research capacity, and then we talked about diversity, because while we are a national model in many ways, we know that we can always be better. If you are good at something, you're secure enough to say, but how can we be better? How do we make sure we're being responsive to people from all types of backgrounds? What else do we need to do? And what was most encouraging to me was that people at the retreat said what they really thought. And as a result of that, the provost and others will be working to see how we can make a big difference. As we go through this year, and as we start the charity campaign, thank Lynn Schaefer for agreeing this year to be the chair. Give her a hand wherever she is. I also want to ask any of the Senate chairs, student Senate, staff Senate, faculty chairs to stand. Presidents to stand. Presidents of the Senate, where are you? Some of you are here today. Give them all a hand wherever they are. Tim and Johanna and Tim Sparkman, Michael Dick, Terry, our student leaders Yasmin and Katisha from last year and Rachel from this year. I also want to commend Yasmin, who is a rising senior this year, Yasmin? Finally, a rising senior. She was president a year ago, when she was just when she was junior. She has been elected a second time as president of the UMBC. And this summer, she was working for the American Association of State Colleges and Universities, was the only student at a national meeting of provosts from around the country, made a major presentation, represented us superbly. Give her a big hand. Some of you may be interested. She's working on that American Democracy Project, so she's one of the national experts. We like that. We like that. Let's talk about the budget. It's on everybody's mind. I want to begin by saying that our governor and our state officials have shown through their actions an understanding of the need to invest in higher education. Make no mistake about it, when you compare our cuts to the cuts in other states, California, a variety of places, North Carolina, what you see is that we will cut far less than other places. I mean, cut much less than other places. And as a result of that, while we have our challenges, we were able to keep jobs. We were able to keep building on the academic strengths. The fact is that in spite of the support from the state, as much as they could do, we know that people sacrificed. We know that there were the furloughs. We know that people did not get any raises, and that is challenging. In fact, collectively, the campus was cut $23 million in the past 3 years, past 2 years, quite frankly, $6 million in permanent cuts. One of the advantages was they allowed us to cut most of that money from our reserves, which long-term is something we have to work on, but not from the permanent budget, because if they'd cut us immediately that amount from the permanent budget, we would have had to lay off a lot of people. And so that was there. You can always find the good in challenging situations. The challenging part was that all of you took furloughs, we took furloughs, and we didn't get raises. But we were committed to our students. We continued to support our students so that the quality of education continues to be strong. So $23 million in permanent cuts, $13 million of that was in reserves, almost $4 million in furloughs and temporary salary reductions, and this year another $2.4 in the temporary salary reduction. Now, what does that mean? It meant that we needed to think about how we would cut across the campus. You heard me say people and academic program. Those are the two areas, people and academic program. And so while the academic affairs budget is about 3/4 of our state-supported budget, the cuts account for only about a half of those reductions for the 2 years. In other words, we tried to do everything we could to protect what people were doing on that academic side. The fact is, this coming year we have a budget of $360 million, including a little under $200 million in state funds. We've got about a $10 million increase. As I go through this, it gets a little technical, so I'm not going to give you a lot of the technical, because you start just thinking, how many numbers can he give me? Well, the fact is that, and it gets a little boring, I know that. We math majors like it, most people don't. But the fact is that the entire text of what I'm saying will be on the web in the next 24 hours. And I want to thank Doug Pear for all he does with this. The fact is, give Doug a hand. Doug, nobody gives Doug a hand. Numbers, don't worry, everything is in the text, and I'm going to give you examples of achievements and particular highlighted pieces today so that we don't go on too long, but you can go and read the entire document. We actually were able to save $600,000 from utility expenses. We reduced facilities renewal by about $200,000. After doing all we could, we still had a problem of an unmet reduction of about $1.5 million. And what we did was we had to tax all divisions by 1.25% to the base. They have worked on that. Bottom line, still working to keep jobs. Now, that's the challenging news we're dealing with. The good news is that our retention and our recruitment have both led to major increases. We'll see hundreds of additional students in the enrollment at the undergrad and grad level, and a modest tuition increase that will yield those things together with new revenues close to $2 million, which will be invested strategically, with more than $1.5 million of that on academic matters, including new faculty positions, and additional instructional staff support, retention initiatives, research infrastructure, support for our new academic programs. And so what I want you to take away from all of this is this point, that as we've been cut, you've got leaders on this campus, faculty, staff, and students, working with us to look at the different budget so that we're not surprised when we hear that revenues are down in the state, or we hear that there are challenges at the state of Maryland. We are looking at what's the worst case scenario, what's the best case scenario. In any of those situations, how will we handle ourselves? And the good news of that is that we are planning strategically in such a way that we will be able to master the situation. We'll be able to handle it so that there is not a crisis on this campus. And that's the best kind of leadership you can have from across the campus using shared governance. What's significant about this new student population, and you got two great examples, undergraduate and grad, is that people have been getting this national news about us, not only from U.S. News, but from Best Value, from Princeton Review, from Kiplinger Personal Review of Finance. You're seeing it all over the place. People are talking about the UMBC story. So we'll have about 13,000 students this fall, of whom slightly over 1,500 are freshmen, about the same as last year. We'll have about 1,150 new transfer students. We'll have somewhere between 2,700 up, moving, presidents like to call 2,700 3,000, but it's 2,700. It's about 3,000 presidentially speaking, but it's over 2,700 graduate students. Students from every state in the union and about 150 countries. We're sending students abroad across the globe. The residence halls are looking extremely good. The fact is that we've got close to 4,000 students. About 75% new freshmen, of all the new freshmen are in the residence halls. About half of the full-time undergraduates are there. We've just broken ground on, in addition to Patapsco Hall, which will allow us to have a couple hundred more students there. We'll continue to work on this. It's like build it and they will come. We've got a wait list as usual. More and more people wanting to be in the residence halls. The retention initiatives have been very impressive. We actually have been continuing to add on to our efforts. And so 85% of the freshmen come back every year, best we've had. And overall, we have a retention, a graduation rate. The 6-year graduation rate is about 60%. If you include those who go to other campuses in the state because of programs we don't have, it goes up to 70%. We now have a way through institutional research of a national clearinghouse to know what happened to the other students. The fact is, when you put it all together, well over 75% would have graduated, some left the state, and 13% are still in school. So we can account for, Michael, 88% of the students who start in the freshman year, which is not a bad number. Give us a big hand for that. You'll be hearing about a lot of additional retention efforts, and I want to congratulate all the people involved. I mean, you know, we need to give Yvette and Dale a hand for all they do in recruitment. Give them a hand, would you please? And Stephanie Johnson never gets applause, but financial aid is really important. Never Stephanie. And all the people that live in Ben's area for all the financial stuff, because they go with a lot of, when you go to pay bills, whether it's financial aid or paying those, it's a challenging job. Give all of them a hand, too. Would you please? Well, significantly, there are a lot of different academic innovations. You heard the provost talking about CASTLE. That stands for the college's teaching, active science and teaching learning environment. It's going to be there on the first floor, and Phil Rouse has done a great job. Where's the Dean of Science? Give him a hand. And building on the chemistry department and building courses efforts involving the Chemistry Discovery Center. If you've not gone in this building on other floors, you can get a sense of how we are recreating this building to be a major model, national model for active teaching and learning. I'm really impressed with psychology and their work in redesigning Psych 100 from a straight lecture course to now having an online component that demonstrates key concepts and simulated experiments. That course has led to additional students enjoying the course, doing well in the course, wanting to remain in psychology. We're now piloting a math course called Open Learning Initiative. That's an online approach to customizing the individual student instruction and tracking their progress. The PhD completion project is going really well with Dissertation House and a Summer Success Institute and Professors in Training program in the summer. And most significant, the new programs we have here, Media and Communication Studies and Gender and Women's Studies and the Public Health track and the courses in gaming and the Erickson School of Management of Aging Services. All of these programs have had a substantial increase in students wanting to be here. The work done by our continuing and professional studies area, you may not know it, but we have hundreds of students down at Shady Grove now. These are students in Montgomery County who see themselves fully as UMBC students. We need to take some buses down there because it's a lovely facility and we are one of the owners. We need to go down and claim it. Let everybody say, we're taking over down here. Get that on DVD. It'll upset all the other campuses. Right? Oh God, Hrabowski's trying to take over down here. But we've got programs in history, political science, psychology, social work, masters in geographic and information systems, industrial and organizational psychology. It is our facility, and Montgomery County students who don't get up here see it as a UMBC campus. So we've got to get down there and spend more time so people in general know what's happening there in Montgomery County. The training center is doing a great job. As a company, it is increasing the number of students in cybersecurity. We just got a big grant in that area in cybersecurity training. You know, BRAC is coming and everybody's looking at this cybersecurity area. And so we've got a lot to be excited about. Breaking ground for arts and humanities. Give everybody involved in that effort a hand for that arts and humanities. We're talking about almost $40 million, $37+ million already that they're spending, plus the 10 or 15 million we spent in planning to this point. By the time we finish phase 1, you want to know when, it'll be finished summer of 2012, 2 years from now. So the first group for the first half will be able to move in fall 2012. That's 2 years. And then we're pushing to get them to get started immediately on the second phase. That's our challenge right now. We're asking our wonderful governor, our wonderful legislators, let's not stop the momentum. Let's keep going with the second phase. That second phase, when finished, altogether, it'll be $165 million. Give everybody a hand for that. It's a big deal. Again, I really want to thank Lynn and her staff for their work with the Senates and others on campus, and our student leaders working with faculty and staff in the collaboration on our parking management plan. You know we are eliminating some spaces. We're working to support the environmental and sustainability efforts. We have responded to the students' recommendations regarding parking zones. So we're working, student leaders and others will be out front with us when people are a little challenged by the changes, right? Anytime there are changes, people are a little challenged. So leaders, all in the room, make sure you're smiling at people, all right? Smile, and many people will smile back. They'll think we're crazy, but smile anyway, all right? It's all in the name of progress and supporting the campus and supporting sustainability. I need your help in keeping people positive. It's so easy for folks to get negative when something doesn't work, right? But if we can say, listen, we'll work with you. We'll figure this out. We know we have spaces for handicap. We're making sure there's no problem there. We're working. You're going to see all kinds. Look at that plan. It's very impressive. The way the shuttles go around, the way we're putting in sidewalks. I took the President's Council. We walked over to the area by the physical plant shops and over to TRC. And it took us from that parking lot, and we're all fairly old, quite frankly. And I'm probably the oldest of the group. But the fact is, we walked casually, and we walked from that parking lot all the way over to the center of campus, all the way over to the main, some people call it 196, right? You know what I'm talking about? The Main Street area? And we did it in 15 minutes. So the point is, I mean, we are a fairly small campus. Those of you from big campuses, when I was at Illinois, you'd walk 40 minutes to a class. If you'd ride your bike 20 minutes to a class, right? So, I mean, we just are very privileged to have this kind of nice setting. Help me to help everybody to remain positive. We can do this if we take this leadership role. The campus has expanded dramatically. In fact, I asked them to look at and find out for me, how much have we expanded in terms of square feet in the past 10 years? We've actually grown 1.5 million square feet in the last 10 years. 350,000 was the research park, but 1.2, 1.3 million of that with stuff that happened here on this campus. You know what the facilities are all around. But in addition to the physical expansion, what's really significant is the fact that we work on sustainability and the environmental impact. This campus has been saying, we don't want to just put down pavement everywhere. We want to have more green space. We want to respect the environment, and we work to do that. The research park, if you've not been over it, now actually houses 60 companies. And what's significant is we've got over 1,200 people working over there with over 125 students working as interns and full-time people. The fact is that wooden footbridge, how many of you walked across the wooden footbridge? Good. Oh, you were an industrious group. This is good. All right. It links the BW Tech and UMBC and CIRA. How many of you know what CIRA is? Oh, very good. Pat, I knew you've done your job. I bet Pat's in the room somewhere. The idea of a conservation and environmental research area, we're talking more and more about that had faculty, staff, and students, and they wanted to make sure we had that wonderful area for many reasons, for teaching and for research and for the environment. And so we've got the links between the two right now. The master plan was approved at 20-foot out for the next 10 years. What's significant about that is that Lynn and Terry, Joe, Julianne, and all of them working with IRC and Dan Bailey put it together. We had one of the most creative presentations possible for a master plan, and that looks at spaces involving the physical environment that will be conducive to learning and working, emphasizing, again, sustainability. In terms of the emphasis of this campus on the environment, many of you remember that 3 years ago I signed the American College and University President's Climate Commitment, and a lot of critics said, well, you're just signing something that's going to happen. I said, well, I'm not going to be a politician here and try to promise you anything. You just watch and see what we do. And the good news is faculty, staff, and students have worked very hard in working, quite frankly, in a lot of areas, including the task force chaired by Lynn and Jenny McConnell from economics, to put together a plan designed to reduce greenhouse gases, and that plan is long-term, and the goal is to achieve neutrality. We've had faculty from a lot of departments: geography, physics, biology, biochemistry, civil engineering, economics, anthropology, public policy, and English, all working with us on these efforts. We also house, if you don't know it, the Baltimore Ecosystem Study, which is federally funded on urban ecology. We house U.S. Geological Survey's Regional Science Center called the Mid-Atlantic Water Science Center in the Research Park. A lot of our students work there, get great jobs. Some of the students from swimming already been offered jobs for next year, people who work there. We've got 2 nationally recognized environmental centers in research. One is Curie, the Center for Environmental Research and Education under Claire Welty, and then GUESS, the Goddard's Earth Science and Technology Center under Ray Hoff. Ray Hoff has done a superb job. They're just celebrating their 10th anniversary. Give Ray Hoff a hand. He may not be here. There were many faculty and staff achievements. You know, by the way, in terms of thinking about the environment, it is significant. Another national recognition of the 4,000 colleges and universities in the country. Princeton Review chose 286 to be called the greenest colleges in America. We're one of them. Give us a big hand for that. My colleagues would want me to say we have a long way to go, nevertheless. Even being in that group, we know we have a long way to go. Let me just give you some examples of faculty achievements. You can see the list of faculty awards at the end of that text that I talked about on the web. But I want to congratulate Wenda Salkind and Kachi Yip for getting the Presidential Teaching and Research Professorships. I want to congratulate Matthias Gabbard for getting the Regents Faculty Award for Mentoring. Bob Provine and Mike Summers were just elected to the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Cheney Chang was elected as a fellow of the Institute of Electrical Engineers. Lisa Dickerson was elected from Public Policy, was named a fellow of the Association for the Study of Higher Education. Nagaraj Nichar was elected a fellow of the American Statistical Association, I think the 3rd or 4th in that department. Chris Corbett's book has gotten so much. If you've not read it, The Poker Pride, you've got to read it. But more than reading his book, you got to listen to him talk. I'm a Southerner and he's not. We Southerners know how to tell stories. Well, this boy can tell a story. I give Chris a lot. He's a great storyteller, really is. You've got to read the book. The Poker Pride has gotten great reviews from the New York Times. I really want you to look at Raphael Falco's book, Charisma and Myth, a lot of great visibility. And then Konstantin Paporis' book, Tour of Duty. Would you give all of them a hand as examples of faculty? Let me give you some examples of staff achievements. I want to congratulate Jill Randalls from Office of Undergrad Education and Dorothy Anderson from Advancement for getting the Presidential Distinguished Staff Awards, Emma Sellers for getting the President's Commission for Women Achievement Award, and Sally Hims for getting the Jakubic Family Endowment Staff Award. Give them all a hand, please. And I want to single out 2 people, 2 staff members for very impressive work at different levels. Lisa Auction is now a member of the Baltimore City School Board. That's a big deal. Give her a hand. Having been the parent of 2 very successful kids out of Baltimore City Schools who went on and did superbly. And then I want to congratulate Jack Seuss, who's been named the chair for this year's EDUCAUSE Conference. That's the big national conference. And so our major goal in research is to continue building the research capacity, terms of the humanities, arts, and social sciences, and on the science and engineering side. With regard to science and engineering heavily, the fact is that we surpassed the $95 million mark. That puts us ahead of Brandeis and Rensselaer. Give us a big hand for that. Incredible research. It's very impressive. We are still the second largest source of funding from NASA. NASA, we are number 2, and we have still maintained our ranking as 3rd in the country in Science Watch for the number of geoscience publications. Big hand for that. Big deal. 2 very impressive awards, just as examples, by the way. Zena Hitz from philosophy has been accepted into Princeton's James Madison program in the American Ideals and Institutions, and Susan McDonough has received a very prestigious National Endowment for the Humanities Fellowship for her research at the Newberry Library. We're very proud of both of them. Would you give them a hand? And then I want to welcome our colleagues in the new Marine Biotechnology Department and the Institute of Fluorescence. These institutes have come about, the department and the institute, as a result of UMBI being changed and given to several campuses, distributed among 3 research campuses. And it is significant. We've gotten wonderful people. Yoni Zohar is the chair of the Department of Marine Biotechnology, and Chris Geddes is the head of the Institute of Fluorescence. Welcome them both. Give them both a hand. There are many other success stories from our Center for History Education, from the language instruction area, from the MS, from the programs in math and science in K-12. You can go on and on and on. Let me just mention one that I want everybody to be prepared to see. It's the big grant we got for the Center for Art, Design, and Visual Culture, entitled For All the World to See. It's gotten incredible reviews in the New York Times. We had a reception up at the museum in New York, had all these alumni who are now at Columbia and all the interesting institutions in the New York area who are lawyers and doctors. It was very impressive. It will be coming, and it will be going all around the country. Maurice Berger, who is one of our faculty, amazingly has done a great job. It's on the civil rights movement. It will be exhibited at the new African American Museum at the Smithsonian when it opens. And we'll be having a big Washington thing where we can all go and look really sophisticated. And then we'll come back here and have a great time at home with it, but it is a major exhibit. Very proud of that. I want to congratulate Mike Summers on getting this with 2 other campuses, an $8 million piece of equipment, a 950 megahertz nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer. Big deal, big deal. Give him a hand for that, $8 million. At the retreat, we talked a lot about diversity, and what is significant is that you will be hearing about 2 major committees that Provost Hirshman has established, one for women in STEM areas and the other focused on retention advancement for underrepresented minority faculty. Pat McDermott will be handling that and will be working with us. She's done a great job with the advance, and I'll give Pat McDermott a hand, please. And then looking at our students, we've got graduates going to Harvard Med and Harvard Law and Harvard Science and Hopkins International Relations, Hopkins Public Health, and to the Maryland Law School and Maryland Medicine and Vanderbilt Medicine and Northwestern in Chemistry, and in the arts, amazingly. We've got students going from the New York Film Academy, and I talked with a young woman who's been working over in the Imaging Research Center, and she said, I'm getting ready to go to Cal Arts. Not bad, not bad. Give all of our students a hand. If you've not heard, 2 New York Times writers, Claudia Dreyfus and Andrew Hacker, who happen to be a married couple, have written this book entitled Higher Education, Big Question Mark. And the question is, what value do different kinds of institutions have? And they say some fascinating things about very expensive places. They name places they see as being very interesting. This is what they said. And then they came up with a list of places they thought that were well worth going to. So for my new people, you made a good choice. You really did. You made the best choice, I promise you. All right. They said this: of all the research universities we visited, UMBC is the place that has the most capably connected research with undergraduate education. Big hand for that. So let me mention a few of the intellectual and athletic competitions that, just to highlight a few. Let me start. We don't ever say enough about this great swimming team. The men's swimming and diving team won their 7th consecutive American East Championship. Give them a big hand. 13 straight conference. Our alum Chad may not be here, but give the coach a hand. Chad is great. And I want to congratulate Phil, our women's basketball coach, because his team, the women's basketball team, made the top 25 academic Division I teams for the highest GPA. We're really proud of that. if I said the Baja team, how many of you know what the Baja team is? Get the engineering. It's that car. We want to have the car around. Dean Jeffries, Warren, wherever you are, we want to have you around with the car some more, with all the folks from mechanical engineering team, and they were second in North America, first in the country for design and the build. And give them a big hand, would you please? And that was first out of 100 teams. Big deal, big deal. And there was a woman in the middle of that team. Give her a big deal, all right? And our new cyberware fair team finished 4th in the Mid-Atlantic region. We're going to hear more about the cyberware team. Give them a hand. And of course, our chess team was top in the country. Give them a big hand. All very, very impressive. Let me just mention a few student contributions. The student leaders would appreciate my doing this. And Nancy Young, who's really working with them, give Nancy a hand also. Where's Nancy? She worked with me to appreciate this. She was saying that students are contributing in ways we don't even think about. Integrating classroom, co-curricular, and applied experiences. For example, the emergency health services students contributed to the H1N1 clinics. The engineering students addressed mechanical and design problems as members of the Residential Life Student Advisory Board, and they helped guide the development of Patapsco Residence Hall addition. The art students worked as interns in the Commons, promoting campus events through graphic design and creating internet videos, challenging and empowering students to be problem solvers and innovators. And the SGA worked really hard to create a climate of engagement and did a superb job. Give all those students a hand. You know, it's, as we think about undergrad education, where's Diane Lee? Diane, if Diane is here, Diane has been doing such a great job under such odds. I really want a big hand for Diane. Fundraising went really well in spite of all the problems. We raised almost $8 million. We had all kinds of visibility. Give everybody in institution advancement, Greg, Lisa, and all of them a big hand for all that they do to build the advancement. And the entire staff of the UMBC magazine, wonderful magazine. Big hand for them too, please. They wanted me to remind you that the homecoming will be October 13th through 16th. We will be attracting more alumni than ever before. We need you to be there to give support. We're getting ready for the next year's audit. I want everybody involved in that. It's very important because we're dealing with all kinds of compliance issues. The larger you get, the more accountable you have to be. People are being supported. Please pay attention to those areas. We just got the word yesterday that we just got our 10-year recertification for the entire athletic program. Please congratulate Charlie Brown and thank Jack Seuss and Elliot for leading that campus. In the IT area, you know now that PeopleSoft is a multi-year initiative touching everybody on this campus. You know that, right? And people, give everybody a hand for working so hard to make that work. Give them a hand. It is changing the campus. There are always things to work on, but we are much better than we were, and you all know that, right? We are making a lot of progress. We really are. The fact is that we just bought this iStrategy finance data warehousing system, and we're going to be upgrading to 9.1. It is going to touch everything from admissions. It is from admissions, enrollment, advising, registration. We're changing the campus. The degree audit, we've moved into that. The MyUMBC has been substantially upgraded. The fact is we're now in a partnership with EDUCAUSE and the Gates Foundation in something called the Next Generation of Learning, looking at how we work on certain areas involving technology. We will be one of the leaders in that area. It all is good stuff. So from IT areas to looking at what we're doing in auditing, to what we're doing in fundraising, to what we're doing with the academic program, to research capacity, to the teaching and learning process, to involving students in all these areas, to having our students represent us nationally. People see us as a place where the life of the mind is very important. You know, it could not have occurred to any of us years ago that we would be considered one of the best institutions recognized among any, regardless of cost, regardless of public or private, regardless of where you are in the world. The fact is we have become a national model. What I challenge each of us to do as we go out on the campus, as we work with new students, new faculty and staff, as we go out around in the country and beyond, is to let people know how proud we are to be a part of this institution. This is my 24th year and my 19th year as president. This is an amazing place. Thank you all for what you do. Time said, two great things for me personally. Jack and I celebrated our 40th anniversary from Hampton. We will celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary in a few days, and I just turned 60. Give you a big hand. So the message to anybody thinking about coming to UMBC, you come to UMBC and you can still look good when you're 60 years old, right? It keeps us young. Thank you all. Now, are there any new people in the room? Any new people in the room? Our police chief. Get the police chief to stand. Would you give him a hand? Come. Tell him who you are. Each person and where you're from. And which area? Go ahead.
Sure. My name is Freeman. I'm your new Women's Center Director.
Excellent.
Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Booker, and I'm the new Event Advancement Coordinator in the college.
Great.
My name is Julie Kuhn, and I'm the new Visual Arts Division Counselor.
Alvin Kuhn's granddaughter.
I'm Dean Drake. I'm the Assistant VP Research Administration.
Excellent.
I'm Gavin St. Albans, working with Office of Institutional Advancement and Community Relations.
I'm Anthony Lane. I'm the Communications Manager for Science, Technology, and the Environment.
Hi, everyone. I'm Layla Shishier in the Office of Fundraising. Good afternoon. I'm Linda Hodges. I'm the new Director of the Faculty Development Center.
Excellent.
Me, Elisa, Assistant Women's Basketball Coach.
Excellent.
Hi, Chris Sanger, also new Assistant Women's Basketball Coach.
Good afternoon. My name is Atia Struthers. I'm the new Community Director for Patapsco Hall.
Excellent.
I am Martin Slaughter, Assistant Professor of Computer Engineering.
Excellent. Now, you know what I want you to do? I want everybody to get up off your feet and give UMBC and yourselves a big round of applause. And thank you all.